Just kind of want to kick off, and I did this a couple years ago where I've heard that public speaking is 90% how you say it and only 10% of what you actually say. People don't care how much you know unless they know how much you care. These are cliches that I'm just throwing out for your amusement. And the more you know, if you know some personal detail about someone when they're trying to convey a message to you, you're more likely to retain the information. So a couple of years ago, I was doing my seminar, and here's my wife. My wife and I, she's a DAV member, Amy Claire. Give her a round of applause. She's not here. She's maintaining 4 pigs at our house and all the rest of the farm, so God bless her. But anyway, Amy was getting up in the morning, and she was going to take care of our chickens. We have we got to let the chickens out in the morning. And we live in a real rural farm. No one, maybe 2 cars drive by our house all day. So she was out with her shorts on, right out of bed, and she had shorts on and mutters, going out to take care of the farm. So she goes out to take care of the farm, and we just gotten one of those Blink cameras. Does anyone have a Blink? They're a lot of fun, right? You can sit there, you can turn them on, and ours you can speak through them if you want to. So I see Amy coming back in, and I say, "Hey babe, I love you," and one of the speakers, and she doesn't, she didn't hear it or whatever. I didn't know this, she'd gone upstairs. And I got a little frustrated. I had to go do my seminar, so I said what anyone would say to comfort your wife when she's home on a farm in rural Kentucky all alone. I said, "Red rum, red rum." So in the next Blink camera shot, and she won't let me show it anymore, but in the next Blink camera shot, you have my wife downstairs in her mutters, and I didn't know this, she was in the restroom, and she had a drawn Glock, and she was clearing the house room by room. So it was a lot of fun. So that's Amy, and now you will all remember everything I say. But more on Amy before I stop. A lot of people, you went through the pandemic and people took up a hobby. Did anyone here take up a hobby during the pandemic? Amy's was, she decided that she wanted to be an investigator of aliens. That's not a joke. Amy Brockman Claire became a field investigator for MUFON, the Mutual UFO Network. Her business card is up here. I don't often play jokes on my wife, but this is her business card. If you see a spaceship or an alien, call my wife and she'll write it down, and these people in Cincinnati put it in a record somewhere, and the government will know you're crazy. So if you took down her card, that's great. Here's the back of her card, just in case anyone's interested. That's my wife. Had a great time. It's been a great year for me. We did, earlier, April, I went to the University of Chicago and spoke about burn pits. Everyone knows about burn pits, right? And it was important. It was a great event. Jon Stewart was there. I got to meet him, and Flo Groberg. Does anyone know Flo Groberg's story? That guy is awesome, and we're friends on Facebook now, which I only consider him a friend. He doesn't know who I am, but nonetheless, here we are. But I got to go do that. I got to be on Mike Rowe's podcast, and when I think about DAV and I think about teamwork, I think about how it's not what one person does or where one person's at. It's all got to go back through DAV. The power is DAV. We're the spokes. So DAV gives us the opportunity to leverage all these resources to help people. And that's what's special about DAV. You can go out there and find another 501c3. There's 95 million of them, I think, serving veterans today. That's an official statistic, too. There's a lot of them, and a lot of them do really great work. But through DAV, we're able to do the big stuff. We're maybe a bad example, especially after last night, but we're Budweiser and they're craft beers, you know what I mean? We're the big ones who get the job done, and they're the ones that make those IPAs that no one really wants to drink. But when it comes to the burn pits, really it was a situation where I had joined the Marine Corps. Rob Lewis and I were roommates in the Marine Corps, and that was back in like 94, 98. Time comes to get out of the Marine Corps, and I thought, you know, in any MOS, I could go back into the reserves in the Marine Corps, and I could become a recon Marine. I could take my very extensive combat correspondence skills and become one of those real recon guys, or maybe a sniper, you know. And then I thought, well, maybe I'll just join the Navy SEALs, see if I can get into the Navy, become a SEAL. I mean, I did pass most of my fitness tests while I was in the Marine Corps, so I thought, you know, I can't do a dead hang pull-up, but I still can do a dead hang, by the way. Very fit. But instead, I decided to join the Air National Guard, right? Natural progression. Navy SEALs, Air National Guard, flipped a coin, ended up in the Guard. And because I was in the Guard, I'm not going to make fun of the Guard because they're a professional group, and after 9/11 happened, we saw what the Guard did. But I got to tell you that after going from the Marine Corps into the Air National Guard, when like the secretary stands up and says that there was courage involved in a decision, you know, in being a whistleblower or leaking this information, I felt like, not that much, because you really don't know how little I cared about my rank in the Air Force or how far I was going to go in the Air Force. I was doing it just to be a part of something. I just wanted to keep something going, and that's how I ended up in the military. But I would be grateful if anyone here would help me out. And this is Shane Learman. Is Shane in here? Great, we'll be able to surprise him. Please, everyone, go out of your way to thank Shane Learman. He also has a podcast that's very interesting. It's co-produced, What's Shakin' with Shane, it's co-produced with Psycho Bob, his cat. What is it? It's a paw cast, is what he says. But Shane was someone who did the muscle. Carrie Baker helped get the burn pit registry started. Joy Elam's been on this issue for 15 years. The communications department's been working on this forever, and not for nothing, but we had 500,000 plus DAV CAN messages last year. This is a DAV victory, and all of our victories are DAV victories. And what we're seeing great momentum with the PSAs, and I'll let Rob speak to that. I think, are these people in the room? Please stand up and wave if you are. They were coming in. Is Julius in here? All right, he didn't make it. Our ability, though, to advocate is what's important, and the skills and stuff that Rob and his guys are going to talk about, they can help you. It's not about taking credit. It's not about your ego or who you are as a person. It's about making DAV better. And I want to show you something that I think is very interesting. How many, just outreach-wise, if you could, in this room, if I might embarrass some of you, but raise your hand if you've donated $100 to DAV in your lifetime. Okay, keep them up as I keep going. What about $2,000? $4,000? $10,000? All right. Raise your hand if you ever recruit a volunteer at DAV. Raise your hand. All right, so I'll show you something. Generally accepted accounting principles. Does anyone know what that means? That's how DAV quantifies the value of volunteers, and that happens at $33.19 an hour. If you were to ask someone to be a volunteer for DAV and they had the time on their hands, and how many of us know someone like that? Raise your hand. If you did that, and that person donated, say they worked 3 days a week, or 4 days a week, just short hours, or whatever time they had. But let's go ahead and say on the bright end, it's going to be 24 hours a week. Times that by 52, and that is the value that a volunteer donates to DAV, and you can be a conduit to that by helping recruit volunteers. And when Rob talks about what the team does up here, what he's talking about, oh, by the way, the reason why I haven't donated $38,000 to DAV is because my wife was a Marine drill instructor who clears rooms with a Glock when I'm not home. And she's a lot more touchy about finances. Here's a look at CAN. It's important right now that we protect what we have. I don't know if everyone here is aware of how much VA has grown in the last 20 years or so, but here's a graph. Fiscal year 1990, let's go back. Let's just go back to 9/11. Where were we at here? Let me dig in closer. $48 billion was DAV's, was appropriated for VA right before 9/11. We're up over $300 billion for VA right now. That's like a six-fold increase that we're seeing right now. And we are the reason why that happened largely, because we are the ones who advocated to increase the budget, to take care of caregivers, to take care of burn pits, to take care of veterans who'd been on multiple deployments, take care of veterans who had survived things that they wouldn't have survived in any other combat era. That's because of our advocacy, and that success comes from this team as well up here. So we have to protect right now. Here's something. That's a look from last year. By the way, my wife made it all the way to staff sergeant, and I made it to corporal, and my slides are out of order now. But wasn't I cute? He was a cute Lance Corporal, wasn't he? There's value in what we do, and we need to leverage that, and that's PACT Act's coming. There's a deadline, right? What's going on? The communications department, everyone gets together and we say, what's a creative way to do it? Jon Stewart's been on this issue. Can we work with Jon Stewart? We write the most irreverent press release in DAV history. Duffel Blog takes it and turns it into something that bordered on obscene, but they reach a large audience of veterans. It's a satirical website, so you know. Check it out, Duffel Blog, Jon Stewart, DAV, it'll pop up. But now we're working with a media company for free, getting a placement, because they know that by August 9th, if people don't apply or file an intent to file or submit an intent to file a claim, they're going to lose a year's worth of benefits. Communications, outreach, that's how we get the word out, and Jon Stewart's been a partner with that, and DAV's doing Twitter exchanges with him. And it's going to make a difference because there's still 5 days left. And anyone in here with a couple clicks who shares that information are going to do a good job. We care more about each other than anyone else cares about us. And that's why DAV was founded. We didn't have a VA. No one was there to do anything for us. We were going to have to do it ourselves. That's infused into the DNA of our organization, and it's a fight for justice. It's about keeping the promise, right? And that's what we do. When I got out of the Marine Corps, I learned how unique and special that was, because I went to work for an ad agency in Newport Beach, California, and I was a fish out of water. I'd been in the Marine Corps for 4 years. I worked with Rob. Rob and I would go out, and I was never going to be in recon, but I could take pictures of them when they were. So I was out there. Rob and I were collaborating all the time, and it was about, I would help Rob in the morning, he'd help me in the afternoon, we'd come back, file a story, and I'd drink Jim Beam in my room and watch it that night and go to sleep. So that was our life, and it was purposeful, and it was driven. When I got out, I went to an advertising agency. Is anyone in here, just by the way, offended by toilet humor? If you are, please go ahead and exit the room or just put earmuffs on for a minute. But I go to this ad agency, and I'm thinking, you go to a military base and you get walked in, and someone takes you around. They say, this is where medical is, and this is where the chaplain is. They'd say to me, you definitely need to know where the chaplain is. The chaplain's right over there. Go see the chaplain often. Come back and see him more, because you have a lot of problems that they knew about that I didn't quite realize yet. But that was my military experience. I get out in advertising, and I'm trying to solicit advice on how I can succeed with people who had spent the last 4 years interning for Disney and being in college. It was an entry-level job. It was personal branding. And what I got from them, the only piece of useful advice I got from anyone, the only person who was moderately concerned about my success, was someone who said, never be in the restroom when the CEO goes to the toilet. And they treated me like an alien because I was a Marine. They had been around Marines up in El Toro, and they knew what they were getting. And I didn't know what that meant. But the person wasn't smiling when they said it. It wasn't like it was a joke. It was like it was a health warning, So, my first week goes by. I'm stressed out. The next week goes by, and at one point I end up using the facilities, and he came into the room like bin Laden's compound was being stormed. he literally shoved the door open, storms in, goes into a stall, and it sounded like trench warfare in there. I have no idea what he eats. I have no idea what was going on. Zero clue. I couldn't, before I was done washing my hands, he was done and gone, and he had done more in there than I did, okay? That was the only advice I was given by someone who was invested in my success. That was the advice. That was the key to success in civilian life that I would get from a colleague out there. So we can do better when we're taking care of ourselves. We can be a better part of a team. That company did personal branding. By the way, it didn't help that the CEO was the only other veteran in the company, which might have informed how they treated me when I first got there. Or I might have just been obnoxious. I don't know. But this team up here, it was personal branding. And the idea was part of your brand is who you are as a person. It's the glasses you wear. It's the way you treat people. It's your disposition. All these things are part of your brand. And when I came to DAV, it's the same kind of thing, but we flip it on its head. Our success comes from telling personal stories. So instead of it being about the person or about who was the whistleblower on Burn Pits versus who was the reporter who wrote the story versus Jon Stewart, it's about the whole. It's about using our individual stories to get to something big. Because I was DAV, that's why Burn Pits happened. It wasn't because of me, and it's because of people like this. And Rob's team is extraordinarily talented, and I've probably taken up more of the time that he allotted for me. But as everyone in my first ad agency knew, I am obnoxious. So I have to step out after giving you toilet jokes. I have to go help with the chaplain's seminar. I'm serious. I'm going there next. You can go if you want to learn about not proselytizing if you're a chaplain, but that'll be available later. But that's all I got. Rob's going to be around. The guys can give you my wife's business card if you see any aliens. And I'll leave a few of mine behind too, and I'll kick it over to Rob. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. All right, so yeah, I've been doing this job for about 4 years. I had to follow him into this role where he was incredibly successful, and now I got to follow that with no toilet jokes, zero pictures of my wife. Please don't tell her. But thank you, Dan. We really appreciate that. And you actually left me with a slide here that I'm not sure what it is. The silent drill platoon, I believe. Is that what that is? Yeah. Okay. Look, as Dan mentioned, he's taller than I am, in addition to everything else. As a department, DAV's communications, our national communications department, we strive to embody that collaborative approach that Dan is talking about us. And it really does come down to stories. That's what motivates us. That's what gets us out of bed in the morning. It's the chance to collaborate with veterans on the state, local, national level. It means everything to us. And we have a team that is made up of just the basics here. You know, we have 12 to 15 writers, editors, photographers, designers, artists of varying types. We've got several of them are out here in the audience right now. There's one taking a picture of me. There's one running a video camera right here, and then we've got a couple up here with me as well. This is, to my left, this is Todd Hunter, who is our Deputy National Communications Director. And to my right is Elizabeth DePompey, and she is our Communications Associate. And she'll be talking to you later on about Women Veterans Report. But again, we have a very lean team. We're an efficient team, but again, we are highly motivated to serve our members. And the ways that we do it, I think that most of you are familiar with. DAV Magazine, it starts there. It's where most of our stories start. It remains the flagship. It's the main hub for all of our coverage. The comms calendar is dominated by the production of this magazine, and we are incredibly proud of the content and the appearance of every edition. We put a lot of thought into this, more so probably than anything else, because everything else comes from the magazine itself. It's a calling card at VA hospitals. It goes into congressional offices. It goes to the White House. It's the official record of our organization. When we want to know what was going on with Agent Orange in 1975, we go to the DAV magazine in 1975 and read through them to find out what was going on. It's that important to us, and we want you know, our colleagues 20 years down the road when they want to know what's going on with burn pits to look in our magazine to find out, not somewhere else. From the magazine, those stories, those individual stories and editorials are broken down and shared elsewhere on other channels. I'm going to use Dan's clicker here. And of course, the website is the first stop after the magazine. The entire magazine, of course, is on there, as are individual stories and all the other dynamic and well-crafted information that we provide to all of you. As most of you know, in 2022, you could see there we updated the site to provide a better user experience. It was completely refreshed, and the design is meant to drive users to key aspects of the website. And that was done not as much for all of you here, although all of you here I hope appreciate and love the new website. It was really meant to draw in a new audience, to talk to a new audience in a new way, because we have to continue to bring in new members, new supporters, new lifeblood to our organization. The launch took place in December of 2022. It included a new architecture and a new site map. And really what our biggest concern was after we launched this, aside from making sure that all of you knew where to find the things that you're normally wanting to find, because you all have my phone number, was a potential dip, right? After you refresh something, it can cause a dip in your search engine optimization and your organic search. I'm using words right now that Matt Saintsing, another one of my team members out there, he's probably like, oh God, Rob's going to talk about SEO. He doesn't know what he's talking about, but I do, thanks to that guy right there. I'm proud to say that we have been able to analyze between December 16th, when we launched the new site, and April 30th of this year, and we put that against the same time frame as last year, and we had an 11% increase in users, a 9% increase in new users, a 6% increase in sessions, and what's more, and Matt just updated me with some of these facts just before this presentation. We matched July of this year, so just last month, with November of last year, which is traditionally the most high-performing month, as you can imagine, for people looking at DAV's website because of Veterans Day. And we actually trend ahead of November in July. Right, that's a really good sign. And all of this matters. The reason why I'm bringing this up, all of this matters, is because it means that more veterans and more supporters are finding our website without us having to pay for that traffic. That's incredibly important. We're going to continue to refine the website. I know that Doug Wells probably mentioned about 75 times yesterday that we have a newly redesigned member resources section. We're going to continue to redefine that or refine that as well. But it's critical to our success that you are arming yourselves with the tools that you can find on the website, especially that member section. The next channel, of course, is social media. We're currently engaged, we have a multi-million follower audience on 4 primary channels at Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram. We just added Threads, and we have a Twitch stream that we'll be going live with. It's already up, but we're not really putting much content on it right now. And over the years, DAV has grown this social presence through building relationships. But with social media's ever-evolving capabilities, it's critical to adhere to some of our best practices in order to dynamically, effectively, and correctly engage the social media community. And here to talk more about that is our Deputy National Communications Director, Todd Hunter. Todd?
Great, following 2 big guys here. Sorry, give me a second. How's everyone doing? Excellent, excellent. So, yeah, as Rob mentioned, we currently have 4 main, these are our 4 main social media channels, but we're on a couple more. And each has its own purpose, right? Facebook, Twitter, which is now X. It's going to get hard to get used to. But Facebook, really good for our general posts that will basically support all of DAV departments, all the way from membership to fundraising. Got more than 1 million followers on Facebook. Twitter, we're at about 100,000. That is something that is very good for our legislative advocacy posts as well as voluntary services. Instagram is a, things that perform well. It's obviously a photography-based platform, so we're always putting good imagery from any of our events on there and providing links, so forth. LinkedIn right now is our fastest growing social media channel. We focus on job fairs, Patriot Boot Camp, and so forth. YouTube, that's really essentially our video hosting platform. We don't do a whole lot of the social aspect of it, but very important tool. All these sessions and so forth are going to be on DAV's YouTube channel, the seminars, so you can go home, watch them from there. Threads, which is the new Twitter alternative, or X alternative from Facebook. It gets convoluted, I know you guys know. It's so new, we're still trying to figure it out. And then there's Twitch, which we are going to focus on live streaming to a younger audience, maybe get some NSOs on there playing video games, and essentially talking to other veterans and letting them know about our services. We're also hoping at some point, once we get there, to use it as a fundraising mechanism as well. So we're excited for that. A lot of that's probably going to get kicked off. You guys might have heard in Randy Reese's director's report yesterday that the Washington headquarters is moving. Part of that is we're getting a new studio in there that will give us a capability to basically have these live shows and talk to everyone. All right, so reasons why we use social media. Number one, we need to communicate important veteran news to supporters and members. Now, what do we mean by important veteran news? That's something that, important veteran news is anything that is going to affect all of us, like the PACT Act, or at least a large majority of us. We want to stay away from sharing the controversial stories that there was one a couple weeks ago that we got a lot of outreach about, a lot of people writing us angry that there was something out there about homeless veterans getting kicked out of motel to make room for immigrants, which turned out to be completely fabricated, untrue story, right? And as sad as that is, right, we don't want to see our brothers and sisters on the streets. It was something that was focused on 10 fake people, which is what they were. Like I said, it wasn't real, but, so again, I'm going to move on from that one. We use it to promote DAV events, things like our annual Midwinter Conference, the Winter Sports and Golf Clinics, National Convention, the DAV 5K, any of the Memorial Day, Veterans Day events. We share our video and media content. We repurpose everything that you see in DAV Magazine. We will share online just to get more eyes on it. Provide updates on the organization when Barry was appointed adjutant, when Mark retired, when Cody became executive director, those kind of big leadership changes, and provide some updates on our veteran advocacy efforts. Michael Stegner is our social media manager at National Headquarters, and what he does is he will, every time a CAN alert goes out from the Commander's Action Network, he will just turn the text of that into a 30-second little video and provide a link to the actual CAN alert. And the reason that is so important is it really helps our engagement by turning the Commander's Action, turning it into a video gives the algorithms of Facebook place a priority on that, and it gives us better placement. So again, that's getting better eyes out there. And then last but not least, connect and engage with our members. So we get a lot of good mail from you guys, a lot of back patting. A lot of our members aren't shy when they don't like an article that we did, and they'll engage us on the back end and ask some questions. Happy to answer them and move on. All right, so yeah, again, our different types of audiences, our members come to our social pages. They ask a lot of questions, things like, hey, where can I get, new business cards? Can you send me the logo for our new social media page? Items like that. They will also, as I said, some will use it as an opportunity to air their grievances, which we will then sometimes, when necessarily, pass it on to the IG, send to the service department for action, try and help folks out with their claims and so forth. So members, you guys are our number one audience. The other one being donors. And let's be real. It takes money to run an organization, and so we can continue providing our free services. And for us to be able to show donors that we are good stewards of the dollars that they donate to us goes a long way in maintaining a revenue stream so we can continue providing our services to veterans. And last but not least, DAV and veteran supporters. We want to position ourselves as a authority on veterans issues, right? We have 2 women veterans reports, working on 3, which Elizabeth will go over here in a little bit. We got the caregivers and the Unsung Heroes Initiative. Our work there was instrumental in getting the caregiver benefits expanded to all eras, not just post 9/11. Yeah, there we go. Running a chapter page here. It's very important. Sadly, very often, a lot of chapters are kind of small, have the same folks in the same position for years upon years, and for whatever reason, it be a health issue, moving away, sadly death, it'll cause not cause problems, but it presents challenges for the people who are still there at the chapter, and just as simple as logging in and getting access to the page. We get that inquiries about what's the best way to go about that, and we don't want to have to ask someone to create a new page because they can't log into their current account, right? There's only so much we can compel Facebook to do. So that's why it's very important to create a basic email address to attach to the account that everyone has access to. So make sure you do that. Our naming convention, I believe this is in our social media guide, which can be found on the website. But DAV chapter number and city and state. So we ask you, if you're an admin, to please follow that naming convention, just kind of for a little bit of brand uniformity amongst the entire organization. Same thing as far as X. I'm just going to keep calling it Twitter if that's okay. It's X isn't really going to take for me, but be sure to include the relevant info in your public details. Contact information is hugely important. Email address, phone number, link to the chapter website, so folks can figure out. Everyone communicates, has different preferred methods of communication. So the more you can put out there, the better chance you got to making sure they can get a hold of you and nothing falls through the cracks. Social, it's important to know that if you do not have someone designated as the social media manager, or whatever title you want to give them, that responsibility falls on the commander. I think a lot of you know a commander already has plenty on his or her plate. So we very highly recommend designating a specific person to run your social media accounts. And a big thing of anytime you're running a social media account, content is key, right? You need to constantly be updating, responding to folks. But it gets a little hard, right? There's some communities, some chapters where not a lot is always going on, but that doesn't mean you can't supplement your Facebook page or whatever it might be with some things from the national page That helps you guys from the local chapter level. If you're continually posting, that will help the algorithm, when people are searching for your stuff. It also helps out national with a lot of our analytics. So please don't be afraid to post and share anything from national, highly encouraged. And anytime you're running a page, it says check it no less than every 72 hours. I really think it should be checked 2-3 times a day personally, but we run at a different tempo than a lot of the chapters around the country. But very important though that any negative comments that you get, those are the ones you really want to pay special attention to and make sure you respond to them as quickly as possible. A lot of folks aren't going to be satisfied with whatever you have to say sometimes. It doesn't need to turn into an argument. We've all seen the cesspool of mudslinging that's on social media. It's really not a place for it. Sometimes you just got to end a conversation and move on. Another thing to do, develop a posting schedule, stay in front of the audience. I know what we do at National, we work at least a month out creating graphics, getting our texts approved, and that's for things like, if it's in June, we're going to be coming up with our 4th of July graphics and posts. Things that we can think ahead on. We're doing stuff for the D-Day landing in May, right? Because it's June 6th. And that takes, it doesn't really take a lot of time to kind of focus in. I think we have a living document that we update every year because we sometimes become aware of these special recognition days that we might not have been aware of the year prior. We add to it, and we take that document and work a year or a month out from that to make sure we're properly recognizing all the different days, months, military events, military birthdays, so forth. And we really encourage you guys to have fun with your social media accounts. There's a chapter in Fredericksburg, Virginia, where George Washington was, near where George Washington was born and spent his formative years before going to Mount Vernon. And they have this little George Washington doll that they take around, shoot photos of, kind of like, he's visiting, and they're very good at, kind of turning it into a story, making it lighthearted and fun, while also, and it's key, while also talking about the organization and letting their members know, hey, George is going to be at the meeting on Wednesday. Make sure you're there with him, right? So very, very much encourage you guys to have fun with it. I want to give some examples here of some stuff that is done really well at the chapter, department and chapter level. DAV Chapter 92. Great photo there, bottom left, of the community coming together. I can't remember off the top of my head what exactly this is, but it obviously shows DAV's involvement in the community. Big crowd there, smiling faces. DAV Chapter 39 there in the bottom right. That was a great Facebook Live. Actually, it really wasn't anything special, but what it was different than the majority of the content that they have on that page otherwise, and it performed 2-3 times as better as many of their other posts. So be sure to add some variety in there. Department of New York. A lot of times when you upload a profile photo or a cover photo, it'll cut some things off, cut off the name and whatnot. So they did a really good job of paying attention to what Facebook recommends for photo sizes and so forth, and it's just got a really good, cover photo up there. DAV, Department of New York, nice and big. You can see the profile photo that goes circular all of a sudden. Everything is still within that circle, so good job there by them. And in DAV Chapter 12, great job taking volunteer photos and just showing DAV's involvement in the community. I want to show some examples of what probably what you don't really want to do. So I was hoping to get some audience involvement in this. So if you don't mind taking a look up there, I'd really, if someone could let me know what they see wrong here and why it's wrong, I'd greatly appreciate it. Al LaBelle, I see you up there in the front. I know you're a social media guy. Let me point something out for me, man. The old logo, right? I know it's hard for some people to let go, but we have plenty of new logos, and that's what it is now, and we can get that to you. Just email Michael, give you his contact information later. You can also contact us directly through Facebook's page. You, sir, in the green.
As a nonprofit, we should be apolitical, and this tends to lean political.
That is exactly correct. Got a kind of a political post there, and yep, we need to remain nonpartisan, apolitical. Got one more thing on this slide. Can anyone see it? Yes, sir. Use of, where do you see that? That's true, and we're not fundraising off of it, though, so I think that's why I didn't really hit on that. But there's one more on here. Ma'am? Bingo. No contact information, no website. Those are some things you got to make sure you have in there. I'm going to move on to the last one here. What do we see here, folks? Red Cross. Why is that a no-no? Yeah, we can't, using DAV's platform to solicit funding for other organizations, big no-no. You're going to get a nasty gram from Ed Hartman that you probably don't want, so definitely stay away from it. Anything else? Anything else up there, sir? I'm sorry? Still have the old logo, that's correct. It does. It does, and that falls under that kind of political advocacy there that we need to stay away from. That does it. You guys got them all right. Congratulations. And I'm done yammering now, so thank you all very much. I'm going to turn it back over to Rob. Enjoy convention.
Thanks, Todd. I really appreciate that. And if we could talk a little bit more just for a second about especially the political aspect of social media. The men and women in this room, no one has done more except for those who paid the ultimate sacrifice out of this country, have done more to protect freedom of speech. You absolutely 100% deserve freedom of speech because you have paid so much to earn it. But we're talking about, now I got to raise this thing. We're talking about DAV's property, DAV's Facebook pages, what you represent, our organization at the local level. That's what we're talking about. We're not talking about your own personal stuff. This is all about DAV's social media. So we're going to be headed into an election year in 2024. It feels like we're already there right now in so many ways, and it's going to be a long contentious season. And I just ask you all to keep that in mind as you're managing these assets that are public facing. So we've talked about the ways that we reach out. We talked about featured and news stories that we run in DAV Magazine and on the website. Obviously our social media posts. There's some things that we didn't mention, like special events that we support, myriad of special events that we seem to support. Those seem to be growing every year, from the Winter Sports Clinic, Golf Clinic, to this event here. I mean, Doreen is gone now, but she probably could tell me how many different tasks that we have just for this lone event, I'm going to guess it's somewhere around 350 if I'm a betting man, and I would put that downstairs on a table. But we do a lot, right? Again, with this very lean team. Most important, though, are the stories. It all comes back to the stories, and these stories are crucial and they're critical. And we know that people don't fully understand or invest in an issue unless they see the human impact. And that means we have to tell the stories, we have to share the stories. And really one of the most successful ways that we've been able to put a face on our stories, on our disabled veterans, is our Victories for Veterans PSA campaign. As everyone in this room very likely knows, the Victories for Veterans theme PSAs tell the stories of veterans who have been wounded, ill, or injured, and it puts a face on the myriad ways DAV helps them. The message presents real veterans who have overcome challenges and found victory for themselves and their families. The message that we are trying to convey to the American public with these PSAs is that all of these true stories are just a few of the victories that our organization helps to make possible each and every year. These are television PSAs, radio, print, digital, out of home, which are billboards, I think most of you know. And how many of you have actually seen a billboard out in the wild? No DAV PSA? Aren't really that few. Usually we have a little bit more. Okay, or you're just lazy. You don't want to raise your hand. That's fine. That's fine. You don't have to raise your hands. I get it. It's really, though, it's incredibly successful because of the stories being told. In 2022, we launched a new round of PSA Creative. It features Adam Alexander of Oshkosh, Wisconsin, who survived serious wounds from enemy fire in Afghanistan. He's the 2022, as you know, 2022 Disabled American Veteran of the Year. He was here with us last year. Also included Latoya Lucas from North Carolina. She's an Army veteran injured in Iraq. And Michael Naranjo, another Disabled American Veteran of the Year from back in the late 90s, Army, Vietnam, blinded by an enemy grenade. The last thing he saw was the enemy, Vietnamese soldier throwing a grenade in his direction. That's the last thing he will ever see. But he's an incredible artist and sculptor now. And I really, when I look up there, I'm very proud of something, and I want to point it out right now, is the diversity that we touch on with this campaign. Yeah, please, yeah, someone should be following this guy. We have women, we have a Native American, we have a black woman. I mean, that's incredibly important to us, and it's something that we very much pay attention to. We want our PSA campaign to look like, when I look out at this audience right now, that's what I want to see. That's what I want the American public to see when they think about our organization. If I could, I'd like to show one of our PSAs. So I'm not sure if it's automatically going to launch or not. If it does, just enjoy it. Oh, no, actually, it's not automatically going to launch, so hold on one second. This is Adam Alexander. I actually got an extra slide here. Again, 2022 Disabled American Veteran of the Year. He was wounded by sniper fire in Afghanistan. He got hit in the head by a sniper's bullet. Now he takes his time after recovery, and the doctors gave him a very low chance of survival. He shares his story with local students. He takes part in a television program in Oshkosh, Wisconsin, called The Outpost, that talks about veterans' issues from the DAV's perspective. And there we go. And I want to see if I can play this bad boy for you.
Serving in Afghanistan.
Oh, do we have volume on? Do I have volume?
I was hit by sniper fire, and I was given a 5% chance to live. It's a good thing math wasn't my best subject. Today, I visit classrooms and share my story. I tell kids that with a little help and a lot of work, that you can overcome any challenge.
DAV helps veterans like Adam get the benefits they've earned. They help more than 1 million veterans every year.
My victory is being there for the next generation.
Support more victories for veterans. Go to DAV.org.
It's a shorter one. It's a 30-second PSA. Again, we filmed this creative last year. And we wanted to know, we know that when we launch new PSA Creative, we tend to have a bump, right? We tend to do very well. We get a lift, if you will.
Serving in Afghanistan.
Sorry about that. There we go. So 2022, these are our PSA campaign results. Again, this is 1 year. Last year alone we had $132 million in donated media value, over 16.7 billion impressions. It's a challenge kind of to wrap your head around this, and so what I've been doing lately is telling people that the gold standard for advertising, if we had to pay for this advertising, which again, we are not paying for it, it's actually donated to us, is the Super Bowl ad, right? We all know that it takes $7 million to get 30 seconds of Super Bowl time. So last year, 2022 alone, we had 18 Super Bowl ads worth of donated media value to our organization. Yeah, we know, yep. You can see some of the outlets there, NBC Sports, HGTV, Wall Street Journal. I mean, the Wall Street Journal, I really need to start keeping track of those because the Wall Street Journal essentially runs a half, quarter, or full page ad in one of its papers at least 2 or 3 times a week, it seems like. That's, I think, what they're averaging, which is an incredible amount. I mean, it's just, we have people who clip these things and share them with us all the time, and people will send us photos from around the country of our billboards and all the unique places that they see them. And I do know that we are tracking about the same as we were last year, which was a record-setting year. As of June 30th, we are sitting at $66 million in donated media value and 6.5 billion impressions. So that's incredibly, we're heartened to see that, right? Because sometimes you'll have a dip afterwards, after a year, after it's kind of the creative has been in the wild, it will tend to drop off a little bit. We're not dropping off at all. And here's some of the places where you see us. That's Carmen McGinnis, I think, at an airport. Alex Hussey at an airport. Naomi Mathis, used to be she was an NSO at the time, and now she works on our legislative team. And that's her, I think, at a train station, maybe in Oklahoma, if I'm not mistaken. But and here, and I love this one. This is my favorite. This is Adam Greathouse. It's Adam Greathouse. We have too many Adams. Adam Greathouse, who's a West Virginia veteran, injured in Bosnia, and now he is he was surfing in Florida when we shot that picture, and that's him in San Francisco. So he's kind of been all over the world for DAV. We can't expect results like that all the time. You know, we can't predict what we're going to get. But if you look back to 2014, you can see where we have just grown over the years, all the way up to 2022. There was a slight dip in 2021 as advertisers started flooding the market again to recoup their pandemic losses. But man, you look at that jump in 2022, it's really incredible. And you heard Cody Van Boxel yesterday in his report to this convention mention that DAV PSAs have aired more than 1.1 million times on television alone. Again, these are things that we did not pay for that advertisement. That was donated to us. And in total, they generated over all this time 67 billion impressions, and that equals more than $743 million in donated media value. Very soon, probably not this year, but I would predict by next year, we're going to cross the $1 billion threshold in terms of donated value, just on this campaign, one campaign. So it's amazing. We work hard, though. We've got great creative. We have amazing veterans who are telling their incredible stories, but we also work very hard to conduct outreach. We sell these stories to networks, newspapers, to basically anyone who will listen. We take our veterans on pitch tours. Just earlier this year, we had LaToya Lucas telling her story to network executives from ABC and Disney, from NBC, Comcast, several other news organizations, Sinclair. They take time to meet with us and let LaToya Lucas, and I'll tell you what, you get LaToya Lucas talking about being blown up in Iraq and having someone from Disabled Veterans, from DAV, there beside her in a bed in Walter Reed. There's not a dry eye on that. And these are some jaded network executives somewhere in New York that we never met before. And, they live in this kind of media bubble that they're in, and she breaks that. That's why, part of the reason at least, why we know that we're seeing good results. We can't rely on LaToya Lucas. We can't rely on big networks. A lot of our support comes from smaller local stations, and that's where each of you can come in. There are many factors. We can't guarantee that we're going to have these kind of results every year. Like I mentioned before, 2024 is going to be an election year. Guess what's going to happen during election year? People are going to buy advertising. They're going to flood the markets with advertising. That squeezes out donated media. So we absolutely, it is critical that we have engaged members at the local level reaching out to news stations. What else is going on in the world? Writers Guild strike, the actors strike, streaming services taking over big networks, which is where we're getting a lot of our, or at least a great deal of our support is coming from big networks, right? So streaming services are taking over, and we're trying to make inroads there as well. AI, there are all kinds of factors that are affecting the media landscape right now. But what really works, what we know works as an organization, local chapters, good old face-to-face, pitching our stories, pitching DAV's PSAs to TV, radio, local billboard owners. You can call those billboard owners. You can send me your billboard owners in your town. If you see an empty billboard owner with a phone number on it, you send that to me. I guarantee I'll make a call before the end of that week trying to get a DAV PSA on that billboard. Reach out to us. We have on the members section of the website, as we mentioned, we have materials that will support that. We have a PSA toolkit that helps you to sell these stories to them, right? It tells you everything, best practices, how to access the materials, campaign messaging. We give you the elevator pitch. You just have to rehearse what we've provided you, go in, and meet with these stations. They will meet with you. I guarantee that if someone, a disabled veteran in their community comes in to talk to them about our mission, they are going to be there to hear it. They want to hear that. And this next slide, I know it seems very simple, just words, no pictures, but it's incredibly important, and that's why I made it look this way. This is one of the most important slides, and I ask that each of you please not forget this, because there is a relationship between our enhanced brand recognition that we are getting from the work that we do, the work that each one of you do, and from these DAV PSAs. As we continue to have this success, we have a relationship between our brand recognition and earned media. And earned media is, basically, it's a fancy word for news coverage. And it's incredibly important. It is vital to our organization that we have local reporters covering our stories, covering what each and every one of you is doing. It's free, it's effective, it's the work that you're doing anyway, and whether it's at the national, state, or local level, it is the work that you're doing is actually gold for a local reporter. Because as someone who used to be a local reporter, Dan was telling you that he and I were reporters in Okinawa. That was for the Marine Corps. But I got out and I was a newspaper journalist for a few years afterwards, and I have another newspaper reporter sitting up on stage with me. I'm speaking for myself only when I say that reporters are incredibly lazy, and if you will do the work for them, they will greatly appreciate it. Elizabeth is not lazy. I was a lazy reporter, but a lot of them are. If you can do some of their work for them, they will greatly appreciate it. So you sell our stories, you tell them our stories, and they will find a way to help you. And that includes, this is our newest program, acquired in 2022, right? These are veteran entrepreneurs. They are a new part of the DAV family. I come from a family of entrepreneurs, and those are, veterans and entrepreneurs have always been my heroes. And we're going to continue to build and grow this program, and we now have these representatives in our communities across the country. So they're going to be in your states, they're going to be in your towns. Not only should you be supporting their businesses, because they're busy, growing these businesses, hopefully you are working with your local reporters who you are building these relationships with by going through the publicity guide and using those tips and tricks that we provide you in the member resource section. And you are sharing this information about these companies in your local communities with them, with these reporters. Find a way to support them. Again, these folks are trying to start businesses, and they're busy doing it, right? Things like, let me see, we got chapter involvement, things like hunger, right? We're in a tough economy, challenging times. It's incredibly inspirational to see the work being done for the veterans who are most vulnerable in our communities, these folks who need it most. That's a story that a reporter will get on air. I guarantee you, I'm not going to say 10 times out of 10, but I certainly believe 9 times out of 10. It's very relevant, and it really shows DAV in a different light than what people are used to really thinking us as, right? We're not just a group of disabled veterans taking care, narrowly focused on disabled veteran issues. We are vital parts of a local community, and that includes things like hunger drives. These are things that all of you are doing. What seems like old hat to us, things that we're just, like we do this all the time, right? We have Camp Corral, we have Just Be Kids fundraisers, right? These are things that we kind of check the box on. To a reporter, that you guys are out there spending your time, giving your time, raising money so that children of wounded, ill, injured, and deceased service members can attend camp and heal. That's, again, I call it gold. That's gold. That's a story that is absolutely wanting every reporter, if that lands in their lap, they're going to want to tell it. Media ride-alongs. Brian Buckwalter's sitting there nodding his head. He's like, that's absolutely right. Brian he covers our voluntary service department, and he has been doing an outstanding job lining up ride-alongs, acting as a go-between between the media, the drivers, the public affairs head at the hospital, because you got to do all this kind of coordinating. Brian has bandwidth, right? Nod, you got bandwidth? Yeah, he's got time, you guys. Make him work harder than he's working right now. Look at him, he's just sitting there. He's got nothing to do. Get him out there, get him out there doing ride-alongs, arranging ride-alongs with your volunteer drivers. I know, who in here needs volunteer drivers in your area? Yeah, exactly, all over. We need them everywhere. Talk to the Las Vegas, to the DAV team in Las Vegas about what happens when you launch a campaign. Talk to the folks, talk to Butch Whitehead up in Minnesota about what happens when you launch a campaign where you get earned media behind you in that effort, when you have a ride-along with a reporter riding with a disabled veteran or a volunteer who is helping disabled veterans get to and from their medical appointments. Talk to Marty Panic in South Dakota. He just talked to me about it last night. He was pleased with those results. Again, 3, 4, 5, 6 stories, maybe more. Brian can correct me on, I'm probably wrong on that. I'm probably underestimating it. But they have volunteers who are real results, right? Not just things like impressions, not just things like, oh, it's a good feel-good story. Actual results, actual volunteers showing up to work as a result of these stories. Another one, youth volunteerism, right? I've got a daughter who just graduated from college, and I've got another one who's about 2 years away from college. One's costing me a lot of money, and the other one's getting ready to cost me a lot more. And, I wish I'd had the older one volunteering at a younger age. I wish that I'd known, and I know that there are parents out there in your communities right now who would love to know that the kids can go volunteer at DAV hospital or at VA hospitals, absolutely. There's all kinds of jobs there. They can do things through our LVET programs where they are helping local veterans with their needs at their houses. They can, mowing grass, all kinds of different ways that you can help out disabled veterans in your community, and they can earn scholarship money for that. Believe me, I'll talk about with my wife now, since Dan talked about his. She would love if I had done this years ago. So youth volunteerism, incredibly important, a big story. And then I'm going to wrap up my part on a kind of a more serious note, if I could, before I kick it over to Elizabeth. Another way that we tell our story is with our branding, with this logo that we launched back in 2011 or 12. It's been over 10 years now. We really started paying attention to branding in an incredibly significant way back then. Why are we so serious about the proper use of our logos in all media, including print, digital, video, and elsewhere? This branding, it helps set DAV apart. It provides us with a unique and immediately detectable identity because we only have seconds to convey who we are to the American public. It makes us memorable. It helps with other elements of the organization, including fundraising, the services that we're offering, volunteerism. When it's done right, it encourages the public to support and engage, and it brings pride to every one of you. I hope that you guys are proud of wearing that logo on your gear, on your shirts. I know I am. I think it's beautiful. You know, and it's partly it's my job to feel that it's beautiful, but objectively, I think it's beautiful as well. How should our brand be used? What are the rules and the guidelines? Which colors are approved? How can you place the logo over something or not over something, or in a video? How should we describe and speak about our services and about our initiatives? We have answers. They are available in 2 documents, the DAV Language Guide and the DAV Brand Style Book. Both of those, again, on the member section of our website, the member resources section of DAV.org. I cannot emphasize to you enough how important this information is. It is discouraging sometimes how often we'll come across items that have been produced that use our brand, including our logo, that are outside of these guidelines. You know, small little tweaks here and there, we get it. Sometimes, you know, you're doing your best. But we're talking about some incredibly egregious violations of our logo. We see otherwise outstanding pieces of material, great collateral, great print pieces, great videos that work against us because they have imagery, they have language that will be confusing to readers, that are not, they do not live up to the level of this brand that each of you, that this brand represents each of you. Right? It does not live up to the high bar that you have set as an organization. We've invested a tremendous amount of time. I've just invested some time yapping about it just right now. So, right, I mean, it is, we have a great deal of care and we put a lot of resources into it. So please, I'm asking you to hold the line on this brand in everything that you do. The answers that you need are in the language guide and brand style book. My email address is going to be up here at the end of this presentation. You reach out to me if you have any questions. Most of you know Doreen Briones on our team. She is, I think in hockey, she'd be called the enforcer when it comes to our brand. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, someone knows. There's someone who's probably has got some Doreen scars on him back there. She is brutally effective about enforcing our logo standards, as she should be. Reach out to her when you're making these creative pieces, when you have questions. Do not hesitate to reach out. That's what we are here for. We'll never turn you down. We will never not help you. And if you need any additional guidance, it's in that in those resources as well. So to close out, I said this morning, but it's actually this afternoon. I'm going to bring up Elizabeth DePompeis, our communications associate, and she's a team member who is also leading all of our reporting on women veterans issues, and she's going to talk to you about the upcoming Women Veterans Report. Thanks.
Good afternoon. There we go. All right, so if you haven't heard, I'm excited to share with you that in the coming months, DAV will be releasing its 3rd report on women veterans. If you're familiar with the 2014 and 2018 reports, we looked at lots of different issues impacting women veterans, from access to health care, mental health care, housing, all sorts of things. This 3rd report will really focus in on mental health, including the unique risk factors that women face, outcomes in mental health care, and gaps in care. Some of the topics will include reproductive health care, so the impact of pregnancy and menopause on mental health, military sexual trauma, of course. We know that affects men and women, but disproportionately women, so we'll look at that. We'll also look at suicide and substance use among women veterans. Adjust this mic here because I can't see my screen. There we go. As with past reports, this third report will make a series of policy and legislative recommendations to VA policymakers and Congress. It will also include stories of women veterans. So for this report to make an impact, of course, people have to know about it, and that's where the communications team comes in. If you think about this as a legislative project, they really kind of own the report. Once it's ready, they'll turn it over to communications, and then it is our job to get it out into the world and in front of as many people as possible. So how do we do that? You. Rob talked a lot about this. We can put as much data, stats, analysis as we want in front of people, but it doesn't really hit home until they hear personal stories of veterans directly impacted by these issues. And so I've had the honor of meeting lots of women veterans over the past year or so and collecting their stories, and we'll soon be sharing those stories. And so we'll utilize all of DAV's channels to do that. So DAV Magazine, DAV.org, of course, social media, and our DAV podcast. And we'll use those to tell stories and to dig into the different issues in different ways, telling the stories in different ways to reach more people. We will also work with our outside marketing agency, Crosby, that we've worked with for a number of years now. They're great partners. They really help extend our reach and impact. And so they'll help us with getting op-eds out into national publications. We'll also do that through radio media tours, media pitching, again, to garner interest and national coverage. We're also looking at an event in DC in front of legislative staff and hopefully legislators, where we'll invite women veterans to come and share their very personal experiences with some of the issues addressed in the report. We're also considering a roundtable talk. Some of you may be familiar with the Facebook show, the now defunct, unfortunately, Facebook show Red Table Talk, where they get women around a table just to share their stories in kind of a more intimate setting. We will also be working with, or are working with, a documentary film team, filmmakers of Here Is Better. So this is a documentary that follows the journey of several veterans, men and women, as they seek different forms of treatment for PTSD. We worked with the filmmakers, I believe it was last spring 2022, to screen a condensed version of the feature film at an event in Cincinnati. That condensed version happened to just focus on the women veterans in the feature film. And so when it came time, when we were talking about this report on women veterans and mental health, it only seemed to make sense to revisit this documentary and work with their team. And so at that DC event that I mentioned, we plan to do a screening, again, a condensed screening. We're also looking at a virtual screening, so we could screen it for DAV members, and including auxiliary, over the course of a month, so that more and more people get the opportunity to see this film. Okay, so how can we put this report to use? As I mentioned, it will come with a series of policy and legislative recommendations to put in front of those decision makers. It'll help us educate our members, your fellow veterans and families. Some of the women veterans I've already spoken to, who I've shared some of the preliminary findings with, I mean, there were things in there that they had never heard of. So they were already learning things, and they're excited to not just educate themselves, but to share that knowledge with the people in their community. And we're big believers that information is power. And of course, this report and the stories that will come with it can help you in your local advocacy efforts. So when you're talking to your own VA representatives and local representatives. This will be a good tool for you to really advocate for yourself and for your fellow veterans. I flew through that. I think that's all I have. If you're just a reminder, if you're looking for resources for women veterans, this is a good link, but a better link is dav.org/women-veterans. And if you have a lead on a story about a woman or women veterans, I'm your girl. Please contact me. I might have to dip out of here early to interview some more women veterans, but I'll leave my business cards here. Looking for veterans who are doing great things or have done great things in their community, or those who illustrate some of these issues that we talk about, whether that's reproductive health care or MST. We want to share those stories. So that's my information. Please pick up a card. And thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Just a second again. Fantastic information. Again, I pointed out a couple of the folks out in the audience who are team members. We have one more here. Before I stop, I wanted to point out Victoria Short, who, in addition to managing special projects for our organizations, coordinating with fundraising, she also is the key driver of our PSA campaign. So she manages that campaign for us. So, and what? Yep. Go ahead. We also got Kevin Miller, one of our newer team members here as well. He was a Marine Corps infantryman who somehow found his way into public relations. You can talk to him about that interesting journey. But it's great to have him here. I point them out, number one, because they richly deserve the credit. Everything that I'm talking about up here, everything that I'm saying is a result of the work that they're doing. I just get to kind of sit back, appreciate it, provide the tiniest bit of guidance and some rails for them to stay inside of. But it is truly amazing. I've worked in public relations because of the Marine Corps. I've had the opportunity to work in public relations for almost 30 years, since I was 18 years old. And I've never worked with a more talented team of individuals. I honestly mean that in my life. Most of them are here with us this week. Some of them are back in Erlanger. But they are an incredible group. And I hope that you are as proud, at least, of the results of what they are putting out as we are. And I tell you, it's because of their talent. So if we could get a round of applause for all of them, I'd appreciate it.